welcome back to the Apprentice One-to-One podcast. I'm Mark Allison, the host, and today I've got another guest with me. This is someone else from EGTE days. She actually was on the very first podcast I ever did, so I remember it well. Two Northerners who actually know what a foreigner is. So I've got with me Vicky Frisby. How are you, Vicky?
I'm all right, thank you. Not too bad, not too bad.
At least we've got some people with common sense and got rid of the other idiots, so we can chat about something without getting interrupted by rude Southerners as well.
I know, yeah, being told off for not knowing what a foreigner is.
I know, it's disappointing, isn't it? So the reason I've got you on is you're from quite a common background for people getting in touch with Apprentice One-to-One. So there's a lot of adult learners who've coming into the trade. You wasn't an electrician from the start. You've been in another career. So you were a teacher before now, I believe, wasn't you?
Yes, I was, for my sins, yeah.
Yeah, and there's quite a few people who've kind of been in touch saying, you know, should we be going down a short course route or doing an apprenticeship? And you've chosen the apprenticeship route.
Yeah, I have to be honest, I was doing exactly the same thing. And I think just through getting in touch with as many people and using social media as I could, I kind of came to the conclusion that the short, which I'm quite grateful of, the short course was probably not the best route to go down. And a lot of people advised me if I could go down the apprenticeship route, which originally I thought I wouldn't be able to do, but I have been able to do, which I'm really grateful for, to be quite honest. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I mean, there's two barriers in a lot of ways when you are an adult coming in through that route, and it's one comes down to the wages, I suppose, of an apprentice, and the other is also trying to find an employer, because a lot of employers are looking at the grant system, and it's kind of weighted towards younger people. So did you have an issue finding an employer at the start, or was you pretty, was it pretty easy? How did you find that?
So, well, the first thing, like you say, with the wages, I was quite lucky in that my partner was on quite a well-paid job, and from what I'd earned from being previously a teacher and having saved a bit helped as well. But definitely, like you say, I struggled to start with. I think a bit naively, and I thought, I'll not struggle here. I think like employers will want to take me on being older and, a bit of life experience. I'll be all right, be great, bit of a novelty, having a female in the industry. And
yeah,
actually it was a bit of a struggle. I think so. I came out of teaching in the April. I had, I think, a couple of months to kind of get my head around things and actually get my head around I was going to go for it and I was going to do this, really do this. And like I say, have a look at the different paths in and speak to as many people as possible. And then, so I started sort of a bit of work experience with domestic sparks. And I think quite quickly, I got the yellow pages and I'd literally just rang every single spark in the area. And I found one. It was one of the first ones I actually spoke to, and he said, oh great, I'm looking for an apprentice. Yeah, that'd be great, come along. And it was quite promising, but then things fell through when he had to have a new engine in the van, and he was like, I'm obviously a one-man band, I can't help you out. And then that kind of was like a reoccurring theme, and I thought, oh God, I'm going to struggle here, and basically spent a good few months working with domestic, like one-man bands, for a good couple of months, and praying that one of them would go, oh, do you know what, actually I'll take you on. But I just kind of got, oh, my mate might be able to take you on, and then I'd go and help them, and he'd sort of promise, and then won't be able to take me on. There was guys from Yorkshire, a couple of great blokes, Matt and Andy, and had I lived closer they would have taken me on, but obviously they couldn't because of the distance. But So I thought, oh God, and I was getting a bit sort of, I think I came to sort of September and I'm thinking, oh, I've got to do a bit more here. And I think it was GSH Electrical. I was watching a YouTube and they were like, go and stand in a wholesalers.
Yeah.
Just go and stand in wholesalers with your CV. And I thought, I'm not proud. So and spent a couple of Saturdays in the local Edmonton's. And I'd seen a couple of like the AC vans about. And the guy behind the counter, bless him, is an absolute star. I think he's renowned around the whole of Stockport and Manchester. He said, oh, AC, they take on loads of apprentices, they're brilliant. He was like, go and take your CV to them. I was like, I'm sure I must have rang them, because obviously I'd been through the whole Yellow Pages. But anyway, I went up and left my CV. And then a couple of days later in the October, got a phone call from JTL saying, AC are miraculously looking for an apprentice and they want you to go in. So long story short, ish.
No.
Yeah, that's I ended up going into wholesalers, I think, is what got it for me, really.
That is brilliant advice as well. That's something that I told a lot of people who've been in touch through Instagram, especially, get your CV into the wholesalers, and if you can, like you did, go and actually spend physical time in there and speak to the guys and girls behind the counter, because they know all the local trades. They know exactly who's recruiting, who's got the big contracts. So yeah, that's a great tip for anyone who's trying to get an apprenticeship, definitely. And you're proof of the pudding, it worked.
It does. It can, I suppose, for a younger sort of girl or boy, it could be quite intimidating, but it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. Even if there's 1 out of 50 comes in and they look at you and they're looking for something, or it could happen. But
yeah, no, that's I totally agree. And coming back again for the grants, something that's bothered me really. I know that the government are trying to kind of get younger people into jobs, but I don't understand why they'd be paying a bigger grant to an employer for, say, taking on someone who's 18 as opposed to taking on someone who might be 40. If there's someone trying to do a skilled job and go through an apprenticeship, really your age shouldn't reflect the grant, I don't think. There's quite a big disparity there, and it's kind of a disadvantage from the start, isn't it? Because a lot of employers are trying to get apprentices in at the lowest cost they can. I mean, that's the brutal honesty of it. And, that doesn't sit well with me. How do you feel about that?
Well, do you know what? It's funny you should say that, because deadly honestly, it's not great English, isn't it? To be honest, I was, when was it? Yesterday or the day before? We were talking about this. There's an electrician and then there's a third year apprentice, and they were sort of talking about the grants. And I was saying about another lad at college who was out of work and was looking for, he'd been made redundant again and was looking for an employer. And we got onto the whole topic of me being, and the company employing me. And I said, but I'm sure he'll get less of an incentive for me. And the electricians turned around and said, no, why would it be any different? And I was like, no, I'm sure it is, because I'm older. And it made me doubt. And I was like, I'm sure I knew this at the beginning.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether it had changed. Has it not changed recently with...
There has been a change. So there's a temporary grant that the government put in place because of COVID that expires at the end of January. So if you're aged 16 to 18, they give you an extra £2,000. Right. And if you're aged sort of 25 and above, it's an extra £1,500. But the traditional grant that they kind of move around all the time, I think it's currently £1,000. That's only if you're aged 16 to 18. There's no grant for, and I think the employer have to fund more of the actual apprenticeship with the college as well if you're an older adult learner than if you were a school leaver, for example.
Yeah.
So I just think while we're trying to move away after, especially after coronavirus, and there's been a lot of change in the employment market, if the government are serious about getting people into skilled work, they need to look at that, I think, to make it more of a level playing field, regardless of your age. I don't think that should really affect it.
No, I mean, it's one of them, isn't it, where as an employer, do you look at it and you think, I've got someone with more life experience, like we said before, and I'm going to get more out of them, potentially. Obviously, that's not always going to be the case, but
Yeah.
and that's what they're going to say. Yeah, you might get more out of them, but then at the same time, I do totally agree with you that it's not really fair.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair, and I think like you're with a larger employer from the sounds of it. Is it AC Electrical North you're with?
Yeah.
So it sounds like they employ a few people, so a bigger company, and for them it might not be such an issue. But I'm just thinking more of sort of smaller self-employed people, the kind of people you were knocking around with at the start, trying to get a job. It would perhaps swing it towards a younger person with them, because cost's the key driving factor for them, isn't it? As you found.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe something that could be looked at. So
definitely.
In terms, like you were saying about the wages through your apprenticeship, and how you were lucky in the way that you could manage it because of your partner and your savings and stuff. Do you feel like those wages are really fair once you get into maybe the second year onwards of an apprenticeship? Because that's a stumbling block as well to a lot of people wanting to come through that route. I'm just trying to look at all these barriers that would kind of send people towards a short course as opposed to doing an apprenticeship. And I think that is one of them, if we're looking at it honestly.
I don't know if I'm with having such a crap wage last year, going up to second year.
Because there is a bit of a difference, isn't there, in your second year?
And it's not like your average, I guess, because it's so low, you get quite a jump to the second year.
So it feels like a lot.
Feel like a lot. I feel like it sounds awful. I don't feel like a 16-year-old, but it was quite exciting getting that £2 odd jump, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think I did some overtime. Again, this is thanks to the company being so great and still having worked through. We've been really lucky with work through COVID. And I did a 7-day week, and I came out at the end of it. And I said to my partner, do you know what, as a 16 or 17-year-old in a second year, coming out with that for a week, granted it was a 7-day week and put in quite a lot of hours, but that was actually a pretty good wage, really. Not bad. But again, I don't know if it's because I was on such a poor wage last year, but
no, that's your own experience of it. There's no judgment from anyone else about that. It's just asking for your opinion on it, really. And if you're finding that once you've got to the second year, it feels like it's a fair amount, then that's all good. Because there's a few people who, I think it's more that first year's wage that puts so many off, because it is. It's quite a hit to what you would expect to be earning as an older adult. When you're still living at home with your parents as a young person, it's a bit easier, isn't it? But when you've got normal commitments, it's not so much.
I mean, I say that I was thinking about it, I wasn't on the minimum for the first year. So I was quite lucky in that the company does follow JIB, so it wasn't the bottom. Is it what, £3?
Yeah, it's something around the £4 mark, isn't it? I think that's the minimum you can get away with paying any apprentice. But like you say, the JIB rates are generally a bit higher than that anyway. So if you've got an employer paying those, that's even better. So speaking about your employer, it sounds like you've hooked into a good one. Certainly looking at some of your social media posts that I've seen and some of the pictures you've shared in among the EGT WhatsApp group, you seem to be getting stuck into some quite interesting projects. How are you finding that?
Yeah, really, really good. I don't actually know. I'm very grateful what the boss saw in me, to be quite honest. But I love it. It is brilliant, and I am, like I say, very, very lucky. Like, he sent me on. So there's me and two other. So an electrician and I was still in my first year, and a third year apprentice to do the confined spaces. And that's led to us doing a job basically in a tunnel, which the electrician who did the confined spaces didn't end up down the tunnel, obviously. I apprentice, obviously. But yeah, no, really, like, it's funny because I said at the start, I think in my head I'd sort of thought, I want to go down the domestic route. That's where I can see myself, a bit of a safety sort of net, maybe, in thinking the social side of things, I'll deal well with customers maybe, and I absolutely I just love the challenges of, like, the different work that commercial industrial brings. I mean, and I say that, but that the same job, we were basically running power. Get this around my neck now. The system that was in wasn't working, and we needed to change it around, and it required power running to and from, again, in a different sort of sense anyway. But the cables, the college tutors joking about this today, actually saying, oh yeah, electricians, and they'll say that the best electricians deal with the biggest cables. So it's funny because I don't know why they put me on the job for this, but me and this other electrician were sort of trying to shift around 630 singles, and I'm there saying to him, I'm so sorry, I'm trying. But he's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. He's got these devices, he'll use rope and he'll, get through anything. So it's really good experience.
So is he the guy who's sort of mentor, or girl who's mentoring you?
Yeah, I've been quite lucky to have been put with him quite a bit, really. And I think he has quite a bit of influence because I think he's renowned for being pretty good, and we do get on well, fortunately. So that helps. And he's really good. I do feel like I'm learning so much from him.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You learn all the tricks of the trade, don't you, that you don't find in a textbook or on a YouTube video. Like you say, seeing how to get a rope on some of those bigger cables and get them around a corner without breaking your arm or falling down on your face. It's all the little tricks of the trade. So if you've got that, that's gold. That really is.
It is. He's so pedantic. Like he's OCD over the top. Even down to the smallest detail of, like, he always tells me off. He's like, that washer's not on the right way.
I like the sound of this guy already.
Just feel the edge. He was like, that's wrong. And I'm like, okay, I'll change it.
I like the sound of that, fella. That's exactly the kind of what you need. That's brilliant to hear, because kind of a lot of the people getting in touch with me through what I've been doing have all got complaints about stuff. So to hear someone who's finding that it works really well, that shows it can work, doesn't it? You're the proof of the pudding again, that it is actually working.
Yeah.
So in terms of sorry, carry on.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, I do feel, because I know, like, for a month during that period of working with other electricians for work experience, I worked with a guy who, it was just mind-blowing. And at that point then, I didn't even know, I didn't have much experience, really, so I didn't really know whether what I was seeing and what I was thinking was right, or whether I was judging him wrongly, or,
Yes.
But it was,
in hindsight now, knowing what you do now, you're
absolutely, mad, really mad.
Yeah, I mean, you get characters like that who just don't pay any attention to what the regs should be, or even safe working practices, don't you? So it goes on out there.
I was mainly a taxi service for him as well, I think, which was
no, not the best. So in terms of your actual apprenticeship, then you're in your second year now, aren't you? Is
yes.
that right? Yeah. Are you still getting day release into college once a week, or does yours work in block release? How does yours string together?
I'm on day release, and the company took on another, I don't know, Jake's probably about 28, I think, took on him at the same time and put him on block release. So I'm on day release every Tuesday. I'm in. Yep. Yeah,
good stuff. And what about the college you're going to then? Do you find that's all right? Are they well kitted out, or is it, not the best?
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of rubbing it into some people that got it bad now. It's been quite lucky. It's like a private sort of college. I think originally they set up both of the lecturers came from a local college that was being run into the ground, I think, and it's not ran very well anyway, which I can definitely imagine coming from my teaching days. Not that I'm bitter or going to go into that, but yeah, so, and they are fantastic, like absolutely fantastic, and there's no issue or nothing too much to ask. I know if I messaged Paul or whatever, any question, he'd be straight on to answer. And actually one of the managing directors, her son works as an apprentice in the same company that I'm in as well. So it's really quite nice. I am really lucky. It does sound bad, but they're on the ball with everything, really.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound bad. That's good. It's good to get that point of view, because we've spoke on these podcasts with other people about a lot of the problems, and even on EGT before then. So to hear that someone's finding a good experience through it, that's good. That's great. It's a fair reflection on what's going out there. It's easy to just bash something, when you're seeing all these problems. So you've got a good experience and a good employer and a good college. So that's brilliant to hear.
Yeah.
I
mean, in regards to JTL, I mean, the training officer, he's absolutely lovely as well. He's fantastic. But like he said to me before, he's got like a caseload of like 90 odd students, and it's like,
that was one of the things I was going to ask you actually, about how you're finding site assessments, because that's another common issue, isn't it? That getting your, I know with my apprentices, they've always had that problem from the local college, actually getting assessors out to speak to them. So you're saying it from your personal relationship with a JTL person, that they've got 90 people. That's a hell of a lot. I mean, I'm sure you coming from a teaching background, you can appreciate how difficult that would be.
Yeah, I think that's probably why he maybe mentioned it to me, or in passing it said about it in the past. But I can't imagine a caseload like that. It must be under pressure, and I guess it'll be hard for him to. I think I heard one of the lads saying a couple of weeks ago at college that he rang them, and then that kind of went down as like a what do you call it? Sorry, like a review. Which I totally get, and I totally understand if he's got that many students to get out to see. But
it's a tricky one. Like I said to Matthew, he was the last one to have an experience of that you can't knock the actual people coming out and helping you, because it's not their fault. It's the way the system's set up and the money that's there. The people who are on the front line with it are doing the best. It's just not organised in the best way. So I spoke about the as I said, it was an NVQ, and I've been told off a little bit by Gary Hayes, because it's called a framework now, I think, for the apprenticeship. An apprenticeship framework is the correct terminology. So how do you feel about that as an end qualification, the NVQ and your AM2? So this is maybe looking a year or two ahead for yourself now. Is that something that you still think holds value? Is it something that you're going to be proud of once you've completed?
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking about this the other day and starting to panic, because they were talking about it in college, and one of the lads had said that the training officer had said to him, that the app we're meant to be putting on like our hours and our time spent, and I'm thinking I should definitely be doing that. But I've not been told or spoken to about it, which, being older and more mature, obviously I should be looking at that myself, but that's my own problem.
It was just really from a chat I'd had with Sam, when he was saying about how if you wanted, you could go down the route of kind of paying for these NVQs, and that it devalues the whole system as a whole for people who are working hard to get them in a fair way. I just wondered how you felt about that was going on. If you felt it, I mean, speaking personally, I'd be really proud of it if I was coming through that route and I knew I'd worked hard for it. I'd maybe be annoyed about those other routes, but at the end of the day, people are always going to find a loophole, aren't they?
Yeah, it's such a tricky one, isn't it, to talk about? And you see things on social media and on certain platforms that people are posting things and posting questions, and it's you almost sort of, you can gather that they've not gone through an apprenticeship, and they're asking questions that really they should be knowing. And I'm sort of halfway through my second year, and I'm thinking, if I know that, and this is what I like, sort of stopped me, like I say, when I said I potentially looked at the short courses, and then I thought, well, hang on a minute, am I going to feel confident going into someone's house after 8 weeks, 12 weeks? No way. No way am I going to feel confident. You know, I've got friends now that have asked me to go and change a light fitting, and I'm still thinking,
Doubting yourself.
yeah, no, which I did it. But no, it is a hard one, and definitely I don't know the answer. I don't know if it was. I think I listened to that podcast. So was it Sam or if Sam said, I don't know what the answer is, and it's such a tough one. What do you say? Like, you can't say to a mature someone who wants to change their career like I've done, if they've not got the means to do it, then how do you turn around and say, well, you can't do the short course? Or
yeah, I know it is a really difficult question, and it's one I've been asking to everyone who's coming on, and it's really to just try and gather people's thoughts and opinions on it, because I don't think there is an answer. That was kind of the purpose of it, just to see what people thought. And you've said pretty much what everyone else did, that we know it's not really right, but it exists, doesn't it? And you can't.
Yeah.
You're not going to really get a change in it. So the important thing is you realise that there was a better way, and you're on that path yourself now. And as you identified, a lot of these people who end up on short courses tend to slip towards the domestic market, and then they get exposed at times, and you see it on social media as well. When they're asking things that really they should know, or you see things that they might have done that hasn't been quite right. And that's just a case of you don't know what you don't know. They've not been trained and taught properly in the first place. It's often not their fault. They've had the money taken off them and told that they're trained electricians when they're not. So, I have sympathy for some of those people. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on that one.
I mean, sorry, just to add to that, but don't get me wrong, you could well have the other way around as well, in that you've got someone who's done their MVQ, say got the gold card or whatever, and is just an utter cowboy and is still going in and doing crap work and not giving a crap about what they're doing. And then, someone who's done a short course who actually really wants to do the best.
100%. That will definitely be happening as well out in the real world. There will be people who've gone down the short course route who are excellent electricians. They've put the extra learning in and taught themselves a lot of the time. And I know a few gold card holders who are not the best. I've seen their work. So, that is a really good observation. Definitely the case. One of the other questions I've been asking people as they've come on is a tool setup for apprentices starting out. So I set a budget of around £100, but I've been told that's not enough. So we nudged it up to a couple of hundred. It doesn't have to be brands or anything, but what would you kind of recommend for someone who's coming in, either like you did or fresh out of school, and they maybe don't know everything about tools? A lot of people come in a bit blind to stuff like that. So I'm thinking hand tools primarily. What would you suggest an apprentice looked at for getting a decent kit together?
Now, have you put this one on purpose so I get grief for saying side cutters again? Or...
No, there's other people who've said side cutters actually. So I'm been swung around to say that you can have both now.
I have invested in some croppers. Certain people will be happy to say, and I thoroughly enjoy using them. Yeah. My Apple Watch deciding to join in. So, without saying brands, it's quite hard because I was literally going to say.
You can say brands, it's fine. I'm just saying you don't have to if you don't want. You can say brands if you like.
Well, I was lucky enough to get. I think you advertise as well, the Klein. I don't know what's the name of the kit that they give you.
The Apprentice toolkit that they were doing from CEF. So you get the bag and all the other bits and pieces in it.
And it sounds like I'm not even just saying it. I absolutely love the bag to bits. It is fantastic. It's funny because we were just joking the other day with one of the other apprentices. He's invested in a massive Milwaukee pack out, and he has to. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And don't get me wrong, hopefully one day when I got my own van, maybe I'll have a pack out like that, but it's a little bit excessive, and he admits it himself anyway. So what would I say? So everything really, I've kind of added bits to the Klein kit really, so I obviously started with side cutters. I've now got croppers as well. which are fantastic for bigger cables. And I've got the Klein, screwdrivers, which I love. I kind of tend to keep them for best. But the very first screwdriver set I've got before I even got the Klein bag was the Wearer. But the basic, I don't know the difference in all the electricians I meet tend to have the Wearer, the sort of red and like the yellow on the actual handle.
Yes.
But I've got the cheaper ones, and I prefer them, to be honest.
Whatever works is good, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're not the first person to say about those Klein screwdrivers either, and I totally agree. They are fantastic. Yeah. Everybody so far has said, those Klein screwdrivers are brilliant. I save them for best. So you're not the only person who thinks that.
I do. It's funny because I see on like social media the amount of test kits that have got like a Klein screwdriver in or something like that, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, they think the same thing. Junior hacksaw I got with the JTL CK kit that I got through that. But I'm trying not to big up brands here, but I'm failing massively, aren't I? I don't like that one quite as much, but so yeah, junior hacksaw, penknife, definitely
need a penknife. Yeah.
The armoured slice that you sent me, I still haven't used it. I used the junior hacksaw the other day, but it was raining, and it was, where was it? It was in the van, and the van was sort of like a mile away, and I got the junior hacksaw in my bag, and I thought, I'll just use the junior hacksaw. I'll try the armoured slice another day.
Yeah. You can't beat a hacksaw, to be fair. I've used the armoured slices and the other cutting tools, and you'll never beat a hacksaw for me.
Yeah. I was dead proud of myself because the electrician had sort of left me, and he said, right, just get on with it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll get on with it. And I did it, and I was like, great.
Well, that shows a level of trust there from them, doesn't it? They must be impressed with you to put that responsibility on your shoulders and leave you unsupervised in your second year. That's good.
Either that or he'd had enough of the rain and wanted to go inside.
Well, there is that as well. You never know.
Yeah. What else do I use on a daily basis? It's within the Klein kit again. The pliers are absolutely fantastic. But the best bit of kit, which really gripes, because all the other electricians say what a great bit of kit it is, but and I always say it's £12, but they never end up buying themselves one. There's a little socket set with like a little ratchet.
Oh, you mean one of the mini ones?
Yeah. So it's like a little Bosch mini ratchet set. £12, I think it was. And I've used it no end, but again, slightly different with like putting up tray.
Yeah.
Conduit, or all that. So I do use that more.
Have you tried a brocket yet, or whatever it's called? That.
No, but we're saying so with the apprentice who's got his Milwaukee pack out and all the gear, and no idea. That's all right. He's good. We'd said about those, and we both said we really wanted one. He'll probably end up getting one before me, but yeah, they do look really good. Have you used them? Have you got one?
I haven't. I saw a couple of reviews for them. I'm going to have to get a set because they do look, it solves the problem, doesn't it? Instead of trying to get a bush wrench in or something, if you can stick that. I was just thinking of your socket set. That'd be ideal for that because you can get it in the tray, can't you? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's good to hear your thoughts on the tools, and that's from an apprentice who's out there doing it now. So if anybody knows, it's going to be you, rather than asking Neil to come up with his 1980s tools out of his bag because he never does anything.
What was it? His Makita?
Oh God, yeah.
Multi-tool.
You can tell he doesn't work with his hands anymore. So when you've been out on site and stuff, this is another common thing that comes up from apprentices. They don't feel like they're getting enough supervision, and I don't think this is maybe going to apply to you because it sounds like you're in a good space. But do you have any experience of seeing other apprentices or hearing from other people in the trade in your network on social media and stuff who maybe aren't given the supervision and they use more as sort of labourers, or there's one electrician looking after 10 or 15 people? Have you heard anything like that going on?
So, I mean, I do work with other electricians in the company. There are it's set a high standard with because I get on so well with the guy I work predominantly with. But sometimes, yeah, I can understand. It's hard, isn't it? Because some people aren't natural teachers or natural, but every now and again I'll forget that that's not always the case. And I have ranted sometimes about an electrician that literally they'll be doing the simplest of things and they don't explain what they're doing, or they just expect you to know, or, you know.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that that can be such a hard place to be in, because like I say, I have ranted about that in previous sort of when I've spent maybe a week or so with other electricians, and to know that you're staying with the same electrician must be quite hard. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you've got a really good employer and you're not seeing it. So that's another good aspect to hear as well. You know, it's another side of the coin, isn't it? That it's not all bad, and you've hit the jackpot. That's what we're hearing. You've really done well with your employer. So looking ahead, what are your sort of plans for as you work through your apprenticeship? Are you going to stay in commercial industrial, do you think, or are you got plans in the future to go off and move into the domestic market, or where do you see yourself heading towards? Or you not even thought about that for the time being?
I have. I feel like I don't know. I tend to naturally think about where I'm going, but to be really honest, like I say, I am thoroughly enjoying commercial industrial. I don't know. I don't know whether it's. I guess it's whether I feel like I have the confidence, and to be quite honest, I'd like to give back to my employer a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
For a couple of years at least, and then see how I feel in terms of whether I feel like I'd like to stay in the industrial commercial, or whether I want to go to domestic still. I have to admit, I do still like the idea of, and I do miss the customer interaction. Whenever we've had a couple of domestic sort of jobs through COVID, and it is nice, and you can tell that sometimes the customer almost likes a female presence maybe, or or just being able to talk to them a little bit more. And
yeah, 100%. I can understand that. And you get the satisfaction as well yourself in completing a job maybe, and seeing how they value it. I guess in your work, you're often not seeing the client at times and seeing what they think. You're just being given a job sheet for the day and off you go to do it. And the only review you get is from your colleagues rather than the actual client. So, you know, that I can understand that.
Or a site manager who's used to be a joiner who can appreciate what you've done, you know, or like
he'll come along and try and snag it and tell you everything that's wrong with it, even though he knows nothing about electrics. Been there and done that. It's crazy the way site worlds operate. It's always the chippies who end up as site managers as well. I don't get that, you know. They shouldn't be anywhere near.
Well, there's on one of the sites we do work on, there's a lad who's a site manager who actually used to work for us. So he used to be an electrician, and he was bragging the other day about, I mean, I don't know the different, you'll be able to tell me better. He got a black electrical site manager card, and he was sort of joking with the electrician saying, oh, mine's better than yours, it's black, it's not gold anymore. And
it is kind of one rung above in terms of the rank on the JIB system, I think, but gold card's still better.
That's what the electrician was saying, and he's a bigger bloke, so the site manager wasn't really fighting much.
Yeah, well, that's the ultimate aim for all electricians, I think, is the gold card. The black cards come up as you move up into management positions, and so you can still go out on site without having to do anything. You got ambitions of that for yourself, do you think, further down the line, to maybe move into management roles, and maybe be someone who mentors apprentices in the future yourself? Do you think you're going to stay out on the tools? Or...
I have to admit, I do think there'll come a point where I do miss that side of things. I do miss the control freak in me. I have struggled with being told you're going with such and such, and not really knowing what the job is, and not knowing what to take, and it's the unknown, isn't it? So I do, like I say, I do look at the site manager, and I do look at the contracts managers, and I think, maybe in the future I could see myself there. I've even thought about teaching potentially in the future. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, I am craving something a bit more managerial maybe, and not that I'm not thoroughly enjoying learning, because I'm absolutely loving it.
There's nothing wrong with having goals and ambitions to do stuff like that, nothing at all. And you're kind of getting towards the point where you'll be able to start making those choices. I guess you're planning on finishing up your apprenticeship in around 18 months or so, is it?
Hopefully, yeah. As soon as possible, really.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll soon come around, and then all those options open up to you, don't they? And you can go off and do whatever it is that's gonna make you happy in the trade. Hopefully you stick around, because there's not many good electricians out there, and it sounds like you're getting some really good training. So we need as many decent people out on site as possible. Well, ask me again in 5 years' time when I've got loads of responsibility and I want to come back to be an apprentice again. Yeah, well, it's always, the grass is always greener, isn't it? And I have to say as well, actually, to thank you for being involved in the Apprentice One-to-One. We've actually been trying to form I've been trying to form a charity for about 2 or 3 months now, but because of coronavirus, they've not been processed. It's been returned. It's been returned a couple of times, and Vicky's actually one of the trustees who's agreed to give time and come and help sort all that out. So we are still going to do it, and hopefully it can get sorted out. Hopefully in the new year, we'll see what's happening there. But no, thanks very much for putting yourself forward to that. I really appreciate it, and certainly just chatting away in the groups and having a bit of banter through all this as well. It's been good fun through the course of the year to get to know you, really. So, thanks very much. All right, if I can be of any help. Yeah, I'm sure you can. Where can people find you if they have any questions for you? Where are you on social media? On social media, I always forget my accounts. I am on V Frisby Spark, I think, on Twitter and Instagram. I can't remember what they are. Should have looked, shouldn't I? Knowing that you would ask me this. I will put it in the show notes, so you'll be able to go and find Vicky. If you've got any questions for her about a tool setup or anything and want a bit more information, I'm sure she'd answer those questions for you on social media. And thanks again for taking the time to chat to me this evening, Vicky. I really appreciate it, and we'll get this one out as the next episode. Hopefully people are still finding them useful, and that's the whole idea of it. We're just going on a journey around people, talking honestly about the apprenticeship system and people's experiences of it. And Vicky's is a good one, which is great to hear. So thanks for coming on, Vicky. Appreciate it. Thank you. It's been fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. Catch you on the next one, hopefully. Thanks.